Welcome to another episode of How I Discovered My Gift with yours truly, David D. Simons. And today is a solo episode. We're going to get into a topic. You might be able to guess what I'm about to talk about based on my paraphernalia that I'm wearing today. But we're going to go into a direction that you may not have expected from me. So let's just jump right into this. Okay, so I am a big, or you could say was a big 76ers fan, right? This episode is not about the 76ers, but it kind of relates to the 76ers. You may know, for my sports fans, recently, this episode will drop right around the time after this incident has happened. Well, basically, the 76ers lost in a 7-game series with the Boston Celtics. I've been a Sixers fan since I was 12 years old. Diehard 76ers fan. I lived in California. All my family is Lakers fans. I followed Iverson and just stayed with the team ever since. But that's besides the point. I'm bringing this up because a drastic thing happened to me as a result of watching or catching the highlights. I didn't watch the full game. I caught the highlights of this disaster, right? And it just epiphany hit me. I've known about this, but I'm going to dive deeper into this. What I'm going to dive into is that being a sports fan can be one of the biggest distractions to your success. That's what this episode's about. Being a sports fan can be one of the biggest distractions to your success. I will, however, leave a disclaimer. I have mentors that are highly successful who watch sports. I also have mentors and people that I know who are highly successful who don't watch any sports at all. So I'm not saying that because you watch sports, you can't be successful. I'm just saying that I believe it's a big distraction, especially for men. A lot of women watch sports, but men especially. And I'm going to dive into it. So let's get into it. And I'll get bigger into this whole scenario with the 76ers, and that's why I'm wearing this sweater today. The first thing I had to come to realization, I've been learning this from one of my mentors, Peter Vu, who talks about entertainment versus education, the EVE ratio. E versus E. So entertainment versus education. How much entertainment are you consuming to how much education you're consuming? I must admit, probably back around 2014, I was maybe 80% education, 70% education, 30% entertainment is where my ratio was at. Fast forward, I cut out football and fantasy sports because I used to be big into fantasy sports, right? I cut that out. I want to say around 2016, 2017, somewhere in there. And it I would say the ratio kind of went 60-40. The ratio went from 60 to 40%. So 60% education, 40% entertainment. Then you fast forward again. So let's fast forward to last year. Last year I kind of made a vow to myself, and my vow to myself was that we as a company, I declared it to our entire company, our entire team, that I would not watch, and I only really watch the Sixers. I don't watch a lot of other TV, maybe some Shark Tank here and there, some documentaries, some Netflix movies with my wife. I'm not as big into entertainment as I once was. And so I said to my team, made a vow to myself that I would not watch any full 76ers games until we hit a certain benchmark in our business. Right? So I want to say I made that vow to myself. I want to say it was the summer of last year, or like end of summer, probably like August of 2022. Okay. So August of 2022, I said it's easy to say in August 2022 when the teams aren't playing. And then October comes and basketball starts up. I still made consistent to my vow, and then my team, if you're familiar with the Sixers, um, they got into the Embiid got into the MVP race, and I'm wondering, I'm like, man, he's got to get this MVP, and I'm rooting for him. I'm still not watching the games. I might catch the little speed up highlights. I know some people might say, David, that's still cheating. I just watched the speed highlights, which are like 8 minutes of my time, not a full 2.5 hours like I would normally sit in front of the TV and watch. But fast forward, right? I made that vow, and so because I made that vow, my consumption was probably around 70% education, 30% entertainment. So it dropped pretty much after that, and I listen to a lot more education than I do entertainment, and it's more than double that. So now we fast forward to today. So you got the historical context, okay? I essentially made a vow to not watch the 76ers full games until we hit a certain financial benchmark in our business. Full disclaimer, we haven't hit that goal yet. We're on our way. We're tracking. When we do, I will share what that goal is, and I will share when we hit it, maybe in another episode. But here's what happened for me yesterday, and I think it's one of the greatest things to happen to me regarding sports. So if you're not familiar, the 76ers played the Celtics in a game 7 series. I thought we should have won in game 6 against the Celtics. You don't need to be a sports fan for what I'm about to share. You just need to know the context of everything. We should have won game 6. We didn't. We go home to Boston's home. We play game 7, and we come out in the first half ready, doing well. Second half, just third quarter, when they went on an 18-3 run, and Jason Tatum just went crazy. He went ballistic, and it scored like 51 points. And they beat the Sixers, what I want to say by over 20 plus points in a game 7. This is not what typically happens in a game 7. They're usually close. There's usually a dogfight. This was an embarrassment, right? So for me as a strong fan, somebody who's not watching all the games full out, I was very disappointed. But I was disappointed in a different way. I was disappointed that we lost, and I was disappointed that I wasted my time on this team. I know. I know any fellow 76ers fans or people that are in basketball, you're like, man, this is harsh to put out there, but it's the truth. I spend time, I spend energy, I spend mental capacity to support this team, and they lost in a bad way. And my thoughts, I was talking to my trainer, I had a workout. I said, forget them all. Fire the coach, Doc Rivers. Get rid of Joel Embiid, James Harden, Tobias Harris, especially, who was trash. Get rid of all of those guys. Just keep Tyrese Maxey, right? So that's one of the stars on the team. And I said, forget it. You know what? And I told my wife, I said, you know what? I don't even know if I'm going to be vested into this team next year. I really want to just focus on my business. So that brings us where we are today. I believe that being a sports fan can be one of the biggest distractions to your success, especially in business, because you're spending so much mental energy. Even if you're like myself, where you're not watching a lot of the full games, you're keeping up. You're wondering what the commentators are saying. You're wondering what the analysts are saying. You're keeping track on things. You're checking things on your phone. You're reading articles. You're doing all these things. It consumes so much of your time and your energy. And here's what's interesting. When you think about this, there are some benefits to watching sports, but there are also some negative aspects to watching sports. So let me go through the benefits. Some of the benefits are, it's a good discussion topic, right? I've built relationships with people just from opening the door to sports. It warms people's hearts up, so that's good. It's a door opener. The other thing that it can do is it can ward off depression and loneliness, right? You can feel sad, you can feel alone. It can keep those things at bay. I'm not saying it's the cure to that, but it can keep those things at bay. It's a great bonding tool. It can allow groups of people to identify regardless of color, um, creed, religion, status in life. You can all gather together around a sports team and build camaraderie. It also allows you to switch off your stress-inducing thoughts. I know from a hard day of work, the last thing I want to do is, think about education, right? I want something to just, unwind my mind, and sports has been that for me a lot. Just, get rid of the stress that you're thinking about during the day. But here's some of the negative sides that we don't talk about. You don't get the time back that you spend watching sports. These guys are multimillionaires. You're watching multimillionaires running up and down a court, or throw a football, or hit a tennis racket. And guess what? They're making millions, and you're watching them make millions, me included, right? If you have goal to make millions, then your priority of time should not be spent watching others do that. Your time should be spent developing yourself to do the same, and then watch them. So that's been my mindset. It's been more about, well, I'm here getting pissed off about these guys that aren't doing their job on the court, 76ers, and they're going to go home to their mansion and cry in their mansion, right? So why should I feel sorry for this team? Why should I get my emotions vested in this team? Which brings me to the next drawback with being a sports fan. It can be addictive. I find myself checking my phone. I find myself looking this up, looking that up. Wanting it's like a drug. It can be. You got to be very careful with sports. It could be. People really, really go all out, right? You got a paraphernalia and all those things, and nothing wrong with these things, but you got to be careful because it can lead to some really addictive behavior, especially if you just gamble. Oh man, then it's going to take another. You see this gambling stuff everywhere now. You also lose time spending with your family or your loved ones, right? You see a lot of wives, a lot of women complain about men, so drained, so hooked on the game, so hooked on this or that, not spending time with one another. Like, that is a drain that it can provide. It does if you're not careful. So making sure to spend quality time with those you love and not allow sports to consume it, I think is something that you got to think about. You'll also miss out on time building your business. Now, this is where it hit me. It was just like before, in the state that I told you that I was in, where I was watching 2.5 hours. I was like, what can I do? Even if I just spent 1 hour of that, let's say 2-3 games a week, right? Let's just say I did an hour of that. That's 3 hours a week of learning. 3 hours a week of learning equals 52 times 3, 50 times 3, 150 plus hours of learning I can add to myself. What can 150 hours? I can master a skill with 150 hours. I can master a couple skills. And what does that do for my business? It can propel my business on another level. So you miss out on time building your business. And then lastly is that it will keep you distracted from your purpose. Whether you believe it or not, some people, this is debatable. It was described that this came from an article around how sports, in the Roman Empire era, they leveraged it to kind of distract people from the politics and things that were going on. So I'm gonna read this. People call it's the Roman circus. What does the emperor do when the people become restive and when the people are asking questions? When the people don't like the policies of the emperor, he sends them to the circus. He creates a circus, fills a giant coliseum, and he begins to throw the the Christians to the Lions, and he has great chariot races and football games and basketball games, all to keep the idiots preoccupied with things that don't mean anything in the scheme of the entire world. Whether you agree with that or not, there's a little bit of truth to that. Sports are one great big distraction. Tell me the meaningfulness of sports. Somebody wins a championship. Do you get a ring? When the Sixers win, do I get a ring? I might be happy for, 2.5 days, and then after that, what's next? I got to get back to work. So, I'm just encouraging you to consider the fact that being a sports fan can become one of the biggest distractions to your success. And I'm declaring here on the show that I am not going to allow sports to consume my life, even though it doesn't consume a lot of my life. I'm not going to let it get more attention than it needs to. And I encourage you, those of you who are on the success journey, that you consider lowering your balancing this ratio of entertainment versus education, and pour more into your education than your entertainment. All right, I'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Be blessed.